If you can hear snoring in this video, by the way, it's that guy down there. He joins me for most of our videos and disrupts all of my recording. So if you hear that during this video, that's what it is. Hi everyone, welcome to another video. In today's video, what I'm going to try and do is to break down a few things that have happened over the course of the summer and now into this year that are going to be really important, particularly for those of you who are in year 11. Okay, before we get started today, we do have a few shout outs, and I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to give you guys these shout outs, but big shout out to Ilvasta, Corey, Abby, and also Joanna. Thank you so much for subscribing and supporting the channel. If you guys would like a shout out, stay tuned to the end of the video so you can find out how to get one. So we're going to start off by looking at what happened with the GCSEs this summer and why that's important for you guys. We're then going to look at the changes that are happening to your GCSEs for media studies specifically, and then we're going to have a look at those of you who are just starting the course and what this might mean for you. So, beginning then with the GCSEs that happened this year, or rather didn't happen this year. As you guys may have seen in the news as it was happening, obviously when our schools across the country shut in March, the decision was made that the year 11s who have left and have just started sixth form or college wouldn't be taking their GCSE exams. And what this meant was that as schools, we had to create grades for our students. And there's a bit of sort of misrepresentation, if you like, in the media as to how these grades were calculated and what they actually meant. So a lot of places are referring to them as teacher assessed grades. That's not necessarily the case. These grades were created not just by class teachers, but by schools as a whole. And they were based on hard evidence that schools had for each individual student going forward. What happened when these results were sort of released in August was that all of the grades that the schools had created were then sent off to Ofqual, which is the sort of governing body or regulator for exams, who put all of those results through an algorithm or a formula that compared that set of results to the way that the individual school and that subject within the school had performed over the previous 3 or so years. And that meant that in a lot of cases, students were being brought down in their grades compared to what their school had said they deserved to get. And this is where the problem within the summer happened. Obviously, the decision was then made that the centre assessed grades, the grades that the school had given to those students, would be the grades that they achieved, and sort of things were rectified in that sense. But this is important for those of you who are in year 11 and also for those of you who are in year 10 to consider. If the worst thing happens, so if the worst possible situation happens and we find that we're back off school, we're not in school again, and we're learning from home or we're learning remotely, then obviously there's going to have to be changes that are put in place for your GCSEs. And one of those changes might well be that schools have to give you a grade. They have to come up with the centre assessed grade for you again, and we might well be put back in that situation. If that happens, schools need evidence. We need evidence of what you guys have done, how you've worked, what sort of grades you were achieving in class, what your attitude was like in class, what your classwork and homework was like, so that we have got all of the evidence we need to say, yes, you as a student deserve this grade, and here is the proof. So for those of you who are in year 10 and 11, and I tell this to all of my classes that I've met so far as we've gone back to school, every piece of work that you do, put your heart and soul into it. And usually you guys should be doing that anyway, but you really need to be treating all of the work that you do now as something that is vitally important. Because if the worst happens and we're not in school again, and we need evidence to give you a grade, that work will count as evidence. So treat all of the work that you do this year and at home and at school as if it is your sort of end exam, because that's the way we have that evidence to sort of say, yes, you deserve this grade. And it gives us then more room to argue, actually, yes, you deserve this grade. Hope that makes sense. Looking now towards the GCSEs, and for those of you in year 11, what the GCSEs are going to look like, what decisions have been made about your GCSEs for media studies, and the changes that are going to happen to those exams. So to understand the changes, we need to go back in time slightly, because again, Ofqual, who are the people who are in charge of awarding your grades and sort of governing your exams and all of the different exam boards, they launched a consultation that was available for everybody across the country to take part in. Both students, teachers, parents, governors, anybody, if they wanted to, could take part in this consultation. Their consultation closed, and the results of that you can find on Ofqual's website. Ofqual's website is sort of part of the government website, so it's part of like .gov.uk, and it is so hard to navigate that it literally took me about 5 minutes to find this document. So what I've done is linked it below for those of you who are interested, so that you can see what the actual document looks like, because it takes ages and ages to find. This breaks down all of the changes for your exams, not just for media studies, but for all of the subjects that you might be studying. Obviously, we're most interested in media studies, and so what I'll be doing is going through those changes that directly relate to your exams in media, and then those of you who are interested can have a look at the consultation in the document to have a look at the proposed changes for your other subjects as well. So, Ofqual start off their consultation by basically giving a summary of all of the different points that are changing, or the different decisions that have been made, before going on to a massive table that lists every single subject and the decisions that have been made for that subject. Basically, the main points to consider are that Ofqual have suggested that there should be no more optional questions in your exams than would be normally. Now, in terms of media studies, there are no optional questions for media studies. Everybody takes the exact same questions for paper 1 and the exact same questions for paper 2. The only time you guys have to make a decision is as to whether you're doing crime drama or sitcom for paper 2, and which of the musicians that you're studying for paper 2. And that decision is made really by your teachers within the school. So make sure you're listening to your teacher, make sure you understand from your teacher which option you are choosing for paper 2, okay? Regardless of whether you're doing crime drama or sitcom, the actual question within the exam stays the same. No more optional questions in media studies than there would normally be for your exams. The next thing that Ofqual have said is that exam boards shouldn't change the length, format, or number of exams that you sit for the individual subjects either. And so that means that your exams for media studies will still be an hour and a half long. They will still have the same format that they had previously in terms of our past papers, which is useful given that we've only got one set of past papers and sample papers sort of that you can access online, and that there will also be 2 exams as there have been previously. Following this summary, they then give this massive table of all of the different subjects that you can take for GCSE, which when reading through it was mind-blowing, because I didn't realise that half of these subjects were GCSE subjects in the first place. And you scroll down to sort of, I think it's on page 17, there is the decision for media studies. Here's what they say for media studies. Permit exam boards to accept a prototype or mock-up with supporting evidence as necessary of an individual media production, single product, in response to an exam board set brief. Supporting evidence may include original and non-original photographs, images, drawings, or sketches with annotations to illustrate intentions, storyboards, television screenplay, shooting script, radio script, and directions. Exam boards to provide clarification about their requirements. What this basically means is that Ofqual are saying that the only thing in terms of media studies that should change is your NEA, your coursework. Your coursework would have been released on March the 1st. The briefs for your coursework would have been released on March the 1st. And some of you may have been doing work towards this brief over the lockdown period and as you were working from home. What the governing body Ofqual have said is that for those centres who haven't got the time to do a full production, that they should allow students to submit basically plans and intentions for what they would have submitted had things been as normal. The main crux, if you like, of all of these decisions can be seen in that last line where media studies is concerned. Exam boards are to provide clarification about their requirements. And this is the bit where, unfortunately, I don't have the answers for you guys. As with the changes or the recommendation that there should be no changes to your exams, the format of the exams, the optional questions, as with all of that, what Ofqual are saying is basically guidance and is basically decisions that they have made about how the exams should run. What has to happen now is that each of the individual exam boards who run that subject as a GCSE now need to come back and tell us as teachers what they expect you guys to study and what decisions they are making for you guys in year 11. And unfortunately for us, EDUCAS, which is the exam board that I cater my videos towards and that my students do the GCSE from, EDUCAS haven't actually come back to us yet telling us what their decisions are with regards to what they want you to submit, what's permissible to submit, and confirming that the exams are going to stay as they have been previously. So we're in a sort of teachers across the country, we're in this big waiting game at the moment where we're waiting on our individual exam boards. So EDUCAS for Media, AQA, EdExcel, OCR, Pearson, like we're waiting for them to come back to us and say, okay, we've looked at Ofqual's consultation and we're going to do this, 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 and this, and this is what we want students to submit and this is how they're going to do it. Once I get that information, I will make another video for you guys updating you on what those decisions are for EDUCAS. But until then, we have to continue as normal, and we have to continue as if your exams are going to go ahead as normal and as if all of the topics that would or may have come up in your exam are still likely to come up in your exam. All right, finally then, those of you who are in year 10 and who are just starting your course now. You guys are probably the easiest group to talk to because unlike the year 11s, you haven't been as significantly affected by the lockdown and the situation as they have. For many of you, it's likely that you wouldn't have been taking media in year 9. I certainly know that from my perspective, my school doesn't offer media studies until you reach year 10 and you've chosen it as an option. So for many of you, you haven't had the opportunity to study media and obviously then have things change. If you are very lucky and you do get to do media studies in year 9, then yes, things have changed and you missed quite a bit of that year 9 time, but the course is a 2-year course, and so you've still got the required amount of time from the board to actually study the things that they want you to study. So for you guys who are in year 10, just starting your course, there are no changes to the exams for you guys. Everything is going to go ahead as planned unless something dramatic happens in the future and changes have to be made in that sense. So everything you do in class, everything you do at home is what you would have been doing anyway. Obviously though, as I said at the beginning of the video, treat everything you do as if it is your last exam, because everything you do can and may be used as evidence if we have to create grades as schools again, but is also going to give you the best possible chance should your exams go ahead as well, or hoping that they will. I'm really sorry that that this has been a completely different video, and that we haven't really done the usual GCSE media style stuff, but I hope that it was useful. I hope that I answered a few of your questions. I hope that I made it a little bit clearer, even though we're still waiting on information from your exam boards. If you do have any questions or comments, put them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer all of the questions that you have. Also, ask your own teachers. Again, we might not have all of the answers and all of the information just yet, but they're the ones who are going to be able to support you the best. And if you haven't already, do please subscribe by hitting that button below. Everybody who subscribes gets a shout out in the next video. I do also go through all of the comments in the comments section. So if you have subscribed but you haven't had a shout out yet, pop me a message in the comments section below and I'll add you to the shout outs for next week. Back next week with normal videos on normal topics. Let me know if you liked this format where you actually get to see who I am and we have this sort of heart-to-heart chat. Let me know in the comments section below if you enjoy that and if you would like to see more of that. And I will see you next week for another video.